Incredible discovery. Little girl found beneath bridge exposes heartbreaking truths about her past. Beneath the old bridge in a town struggling against tides of despair, a 10-year-old girl named Lily sat huddled in the shadows, clutching her tattered backpack as if it were a lifeline. Her heart, bruised by misfortune, ached with the weight of memories that barely flickered in her mind. Orphaned and alone, she found solace in the rusted beams overhead and the fast-flowing water below, swirling like the chaos in her thoughts. Each discarded item she scavenged held a story, a raw material for her fragile dreams of a family she's never truly known. With a pencil in her hand, she sketched a mother's warm embrace, a father's guiding smile, shapes blurred by the fog of loss. But alongside her bright spirit lingered nagging questions. Was it foolish to dream of families that might never search for her? Would they even recognize their own? Doubts poured over her like the rain that often watched her from afar, playing soft, whispered symphonies against the concrete. The first time she felt someone else's presence was when Ms. Reynolds, the compassionate schoolteacher, stumbled upon her haven. Shocked at the sight of the child nestling her dreams beneath the bridge, Ms. Reynolds knelt down, expectation illuminating her kind eyes. She saw the spark in Lily, the untapped potential lurking behind layers of personal darkness. But rather than feeling comforted, Lily recoiled, her heart racing, filled with fear and uncertainty. What if Ms. Reynolds wanted to take her away? What if the kindness was just a mask hiding something far more sinister? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue as Ms. Reynolds spoke of education, drawing the attention of the local art council toward Lily, conflicting emotions twisted inside her. A chance to embrace her family's artistic legacy throbbed beneath her skin, but the fear of being met with judgment and disbelief enveloped her like a cold embrace. What if the world didn't care about her art? Days later, nerves coiling tighter than ever, Lily stood in front of the council. The skeptical glances etched on their faces as she shuffled her drawings felt like a weight pressing against her chest. She hesitated at the edge of silence, a storm of thoughts whirling through her mind. Would they see her as just a girl beneath a bridge or recognize the voice of a lineage silenced by prejudice? The air crackled with tension as she depicted her family, a heritage marked by beauty but overshadowed by the grime of societal expectations. The rawness of her emotions poured into her work, each stroke revealing the turmoil of grief and longing. But would they see it? Standing there, trembling, the truth confronted her. Should she honor the legacy of creators forever muted, or simply succumb to her role as a forgotten child? Just as the ripple of revelation began to spread through the council, a soft voice from the back pierced the air, asking the question that sent shockwaves through the crowd: what if her family wasn't just misunderstood, but turned away as a result of something far more insidious? The room turned heavy with silence, her heart quaking in her chest as the weight of ignorance swirled around her. All she had fought against, rejection and disdain, loomed ominously before her, blending with the echoes of her family's past. She stood at the precipice, drowning in the uncertainty of her hopes and the fear that the shadows would always be her only home. Lily's heart raced, and every pore in her body felt electrified. Each drawing that had once seemed a comforting expression of her deepest desires now felt like shackles, binding her to a past laced with rejection. Who was she, really? Just a girl with memories that lay beneath layers of hurt and longing, or a voice that could pierce through the silence with the authenticity of her art? The murmur in the room settled into an oppressive quiet. Faces that had previously been only skeptical now wore expressions mixed with confusion and a trace of recognition. The question echoed in her mind: was the prejudice against her family some deep-rooted societal phobia? This was not just about her craft, this was a challenge to confront the very perception that confined her. It was then that she realized that her art was more than a reflection of herself, it was an invitation to understand her history, one that had been shunned and ignored. As the council deliberated softly amongst themselves, Lily could feel the weight of her thoughts pressing down on her like a heavy blanket. An idea ignited within her. She had the power to unearth hidden truths, not just about herself but about those like her, those buried by society's misjudgments. Her nervousness transformed into resolve. Lily straightened her posture, filling her lungs with air, her pulse throbbing with determination. She needed them to understand the beauty of her work, to acknowledge the struggles and the legacies entwined within each stroke. As she broke the silence, her voice shook slightly but gained strength with each word. She spoke of the characters in her drawings, the unrecognized brilliance of families tarnished by misunderstandings, of the stories that lived beneath the surface. Art is not just how we express ourselves, Lily began, it's how we reclaim what was lost and give it a voice. My family might be shrouded in shadows, but what if we turn the light to expose their truth? The council members leaned in, captivated by her passion. As conviction flared behind her eyes, internecine battles waged within her. What if they didn't care? What if her voice was still too small to matter? But what if they listened? Every possibility spiraled in her mind, and she welcomed the fear as a companion rather than an enemy. Just then, Ms. Reynolds stood up, acknowledging Lily's call to action. "This is why art matters," she said. "It bridges divides and opens up dialogues. We need to explore these narratives." There was a flicker of support in the council members' faces, a shift from doubt to potential acceptance. Lily could sense the current swelling around her, an energy that vibrated with hope. But as quickly as that surge of momentum charged the room, internal conflict flared within her. Would embracing this opportunity lead to exposure and vulnerability, or would it deepen her fears of rejection? Would she hang on to the lesson of resilience or succumb to self-doubt once more? Moments later, as the council turned their heads, murmuring about collaboration and potential exhibits, Lily felt as if she was teetering on the brink of a precipice, poised to leap into the unknown. But before she could fully gather her thoughts, a council member asked, "What will happen when they learn of your family's secrets?" In an instant, the weight of her past washed over her again. Lily's heart plummeted. The question reopened old wounds and fresh fears. Was she prepared to face not just her family's hidden truths, but the repercussions of bringing them to the fore? Summoning her courage, she contemplated her answer. This was where her true journey would begin, not just as an artist, but as a seeker of the truths that had long been buried. The moment of truth was rapidly approaching, and Lily knew she would have to confront not only society but herself. As the room remained alive with potential, one question resonated loudly in her mind: would her revelation be cathartic or catastrophic? She stood on the edge of her awakening, ready to leap into the uncertain tapestry of her fate. As the council member's question lingered in the air, Lily's breath caught in her throat. The crack in her resolve widened, exposing the vulnerability she had fought so hard to keep buried. What had once felt like hard-won clarity now tinged with fear, wrapping around her thoughts like creeping vines. The answers were like a storm gathering on the horizon, threatening to change everything she thought she understood about herself. Steeling her mind, she pushed aside the rising tide of anxiety and focused instead on the stories hidden within her past. What were her family's secrets but threads in a larger tapestry, one that could illuminate the beauty woven through pain? Would it not be her greatest act of bravery to reveal the truth, to reclaim not just her art but her heritage? Lily glanced around the room, noticing the varied expressions etched on the council members' faces. Curiosity, intrigue, uncertainty. She could almost see the questions forming in their minds, just as they churned through hers. It reminded her of her sketches, each line leading to another, a visual conversation unfolding with every stroke. Maybe the revelation she feared would not shatter her, but rather solidify a connection with those who had been afraid of her truth. "Nobody is perfect," she began, finding a steady rhythm in her voice. "We all carry burdens, and many are hidden beneath the surface until we choose to unearth them." Her conviction grew as she spoke, shaping her words like soft clay into something meaningful. My family's story may contain dark chapters, but it also contains resilience, strength, and love. And that is what I want to share through my art." She paused, gauging their reactions. A few nodded slightly, while others leaned closer, their eyes gleaming with attuned respect. Was this what she had always wanted? To connect over shared stories of struggle? With every passing second, a new determination blossomed within her, lighting the path forward. "What if we focused our exhibition on truths," she proposed, feeling weightless despite her resolve. "Not just my family's, but those of others who have felt overlooked or marginalized. We could build a gallery that tells the stories of people we seldom hear from, those whose art screams but is silenced by the weight of prejudice. Imagine the narratives we could unveil." As the words escaped her lips, she noticed the council members exchanging looks. There was hope glimmering alongside skepticism, a challenge she was ready to face head-on. What she envisioned was not a mere showcase of her art, but a movement, allowing voices that had long been muted to resonate in harmony. But beneath that fervor, uncertainty gnawed at her spirit. What if backlash occurred? What if her family's truth caused more harm than good? The thought twisted her stomach, yet intertwined with it was an undeniable inkling, a sense of purpose ignited. In that instant, Lily understood the enormity of her choice. It was not merely about her, but about welcoming vulnerability as a source of strength. She needed to draw on that inner reservoir of courage and let the uncharted territories of her past fuel her journey forward. The council finally spoke, hesitation lacing their voices as they deliberated over her ambitious proposal. "What about the risk?" one member queried, their tone measured. "Are you truly ready to expose those truths? The consequences might transcend the artistic realm and reach deeply into your personal life." With every question, Lily felt her heart race again, yet this time it was different. It carried with it an invigorating clarity, a push to embrace the storm she had long evaded. "Every story deserves light, no matter how uncomfortable," she stated, firm and unwavering. "This is my chance to reclaim not just my narrative but also to empower others to find their voices." As the energy shifted in the room, it was palpable, an acknowledgement of the weight of her proposition. Yet, there was still a lingering doubt coiling within her. Could she truly navigate the complexities that awaited her? This was just the beginning. With the air thick with anticipation, one thought pierced through the uncertainty: was she ready to confront the very secrets she so desperately wanted to shed light on? Caught in that pivotal moment, Lily found herself ripe with possibility. The next chapter of her journey beckoned, opening into the unknown. As she contemplated her impending revelations, an urgent question pressed against her consciousness: what if exploring her family's history derailed everything she had hoped to build? The tension in the room hung heavy as Lily awaited the council's response, her heart drumming a hasty tempo against her ribcage. Each member's expression felt like a riddle, a puzzle she was desperate to decode. Were they intrigued by her vision or deterred by the gravelly path she dared to traverse? "What you propose is noble," one of the members finally ventured. "Yet, it would require a thorough approach. You must consider the implications of portraying such intimate truths. The stories you want to tell are not solely your own." Noble, the word echoed in her mind, reverberating with as much weight as a stone thrown into a deep pond. It had a duality, an acknowledgement of merit but also a suggestion of naivety. What if her intentions, however pure, were met with hostility? What if her family's past brought nothing but shame instead of healing? Lily squared her shoulders, forcing herself to confront the doubt swirling like a storm cloud above her head. "I understand the ramifications, but we have the opportunity to inspire dialogue. We could create a space for understanding." Her voice trembled slightly, but she redirected it into steely resolve. "Can we truly engage with art if we shy away from difficult subjects?" There was a pause, and she could sense the collective inhale of the room as if they were contemplating a leap into a volatile sea. Her words dripped with intent. She knew the risks, but was she willing to finance those doubts with her own emotional currency? "Lily," another member interjected. Every artist has their own threshold for pain. You may be uncovering wounds that have not yet healed for you, yes, but also for others involved in these narratives. That remark struck a nerve, the truth digging at the corners of her confidence. She glanced down at her hands, fidgeting with the edge of the tablecloth, a tangible manifestation of her anxious energy. Did she have the output to manage not just her truths but the repercussions that would arise? It was more than a question, it was a revelation. Her art had always been a reflection of her inner worlds, yet exposing the layers meant others would be drawn in, their own experiences intertwining with her vulnerabilities. Would her narrative be weaponized against her? The very notion rattled her, yet it also offered insight, a raw lens through which she could understand the magnitude of her proposal. What if, she pressed on, mentally assembling her thoughts, we not only share our truths but create a supportive framework for those who may feel vulnerable? Maybe they would find strength in viewership and discussion. Instantly, the room crackled with new energy. The council members leaned forward, their doubts slowly shifting into a shared vision of what potential could unfurl if approached carefully. Conversations began to rise, each piece fitting into an intricate puzzle she had only dared to imagine, yet always yearned to create. As discussions deepened, Lily found herself pacing beneath a kaleidoscope of revelations. Ideas sparked like fireworks, illuminating new pathways. Perhaps this venture would become less of a solitary journey and more of a crucible where stories could forge connections rather than calamities. She imagined a tapestry of resilience adorning the walls, each thread representing the courage viewers would require to face their own reflections. But as the minutes ticked by, another question crept into her mind, echoing louder than before: would she be prepared to hear the stories that she might unleash? What if those voices were not as liberating as she hoped, spiraling into painful retellings that threatened to drown her instead of empowering her? As she returned to her original spot, the council's deliberations continued with renewed energy. Each member spoke passionately about the possibilities, yet Lily's heart remained heavy. She wasn't simply an observer in this unfolding narrative, she might well become its focal point, with the weight of it resting upon her shoulders. Could she navigate the choppy waters of vulnerability without losing her way? The thoughts circled in her mind as they explored logistical facets but failed to ease her internal struggle. The moment of clarity she sought loomed just ahead, yet the stakes had never felt higher. In that uncertainty, one thought surged through her consciousness fiercely: was she brave enough to dive into the depths of her own story, exploring the dark waters to find the light that might await? The conversation ebbed and flowed, but her heart raced with a clarity that now felt like an urgent call. What lay ahead would require more than courage, it would demand unwavering trust in herself and her purpose. And as Lily breathed in, preparing to echo her commitment to the council, a twist of fate whispered beyond her, daring her to embrace the truth she so sought. The meeting stretched on, the room alive with the simmer of passion and possibility, yet Lily felt a pulse of isolation within the energy. Everyone was brainstorming, envisioning the project's potential, yet she remained tethered by her internal conflict. Each word they spoke beckoned her deeper into the same pressure that had initially gripped her. What if, beneath the collaborative vision, lay the very trepidation that had fueled her initial hesitations? Caught between enthusiasm and dread, Lily's gaze drifted to the window, her mind clouded with images of her own past. She was chasing shadows, those moments concealed in family stories, the echoes of unspoken fears orbiting her will to share. Her art had always been an extension of her identity, mirroring her innermost thoughts, and now she was faced with the daunting task of translating that complexity into a shared experience. Would her own shadows emerge, twisting her intentions into something unrecognizable? "Lily, can you hear us?" A friendly voice broke through the drumming of her thoughts, jolting her back into the present. The council members were looking at her expectantly, their faces a mix of encouragement and curiosity. She realized that they were awaiting her contribution, her perspective amid the growing momentum. The weight of their expectations pressed down on her, yet the flicker of resolve ignited a small flame of determination within. This was a turning point not just for her proposal, but for herself. "I hear you," she said, her voice steadier than before. And I want to ensure that we create something truly authentic, even if that authenticity is uncomfortable." The council nodded, intrigued by her renewed focus. "What do you envision as the first step towards that authenticity?" one member inquired, tilting their heads slightly as they leaned closer. "I think we need to start with listening," she replied, a newfound clarity threading through her thoughts. "Instead of diving right into story creation, we can hold workshops that center on dialogue, allowing people to share their experiences. By doing this, we can build a foundation not only for the narratives but for a community of storytellers." The idea felt right, an intuitive leap into something more harmonious and less intrusive. The council responded positively, their brows lifting in consideration as they began tossing ideas around about these workshops. The conversations intertwined like vines, each idea flourishing upon the other, creating something strong and resilient. Yet even amidst this blossoming energy, a different kind of fear stirred within her, the fear of what she might unearth during those conversations. Would the stories she heard be too much for her to bear? Realizing that all of their lives had layers of complexity, no matter how outwardly simple they appeared, she shuddered. What if they dredged up painful realities, her own included? Was she prepared to confront the ghosts that hovered just beyond her conscious reasoning? Those questions re-emerged like intruders in her thoughts, and she fought against their immediate pull. The fear of confrontation, of vulnerability, surged through her again, yet flickered like a dying ember against the realization of strength. "Maybe," she projected boldly, while still wrestling with internal uncertainty, "we must embrace the chaos of our collective truths, to hold a mirror to ourselves in understanding together." The council responded with nods of agreement, and the discussions began to take an integration of both vision and also caution. This was evolving into a huge undertaking without a clear compass. Hours melted away as plans took shape, conversations flowing like a river covered with new, vibrant colors. But by the end of the meeting, the questions gnawed at her, relentless and pressing. A small part of her reveled in the undeniable prospect of change, yet the reality that loomed ahead held its dark undertones, the possibility of reliving pain mixed with the hope of catharsis. The trembling line she was casting between truth and exposure felt perilously thin, causing her heart to beat wildly. As she stepped out of the meeting room, the cold air hit her, a stark contrast to the warmth of the discussions. It felt invigorating and constricting all at once, a reminder of how amplified her journey had now become. Would the momentum she'd garnered carry her through the storms ahead? Her path unfurled ahead, yet she felt more at a crossroads than ever. Trusting her narrative would require strength like a swimmer leaping into a churning sea. Would she emerge with clarity, or would she be dragged under by the weight of her own revelations? The moment of truth lingered just beyond her grasp, daring her with its presence. Embracing discomfort was one thing, but could she count on her will to prevail across the rough waters that awaited? Her breath quickened as she contemplated the stories still hidden in the shadows, waiting for the unveiling. The sun had barely risen when Lily arrived at the community center for the first workshop. The chill in the air was biting, but it didn't compare to the chill coursing through her veins. She had spent the restless hours of the night rehearsing her introduction, trying to smooth out the jagged edges of her self-doubt. Now, as the building loomed before her like a fortress of expectations, the weight of her decision to lead this initiative settled heavily on her shoulders. Inside, the room was alive with conversations and a diverse array of attendees, each one carrying their unique bags of stories. With each face she recognized, an inkling of camaraderie flickered within her, juxtaposed against the gnawing sensation of vulnerability. Would they see her as the artist, the leader she was pretending to be, or merely another anxious soul searching for clarity in chaotic narratives? "Good morning, everyone," she began, her voice wavering but firm. "Thank you for being here today. I know we're all excited to share our stories, but I want us to focus on creating a space that feels safe for everyone. Storytelling is powerful and uncomfortable." As she spoke, she could sense the room shifting, anticipation woven into the expressions around her. There was a balance between apprehension and willingness that intrigued her, lighting a flicker of resolve in her belly. "Let us start with an icebreaker. I want each of you to share one word that represents what storytelling means to you. The words flowed, each utterance accompanied by a ripple of energy, freedom, healing, connection. Each contribution carved away at her doubt, revealing the shared tapestry of human experience. Lily felt a pulse of unity emerging from these distinct voices, an assurance that they were embarking on this journey together. Yet, as the stories began to unfold during the discussions, shadows flickered at the edges. Past traumas, lost loved ones, experiences of betrayal danced in the space. Lily's chest tightened as she listened. These shared truths echoed her own, triggering echoes that sent tremors deep within. If she couldn't handle her own ghosts, how could she facilitate the unearthing of others? She glanced down, the notebook on her lap filled with reminders and strategies meant to facilitate conversation. Yet now, it felt like an anchor pulling her deeper into the depths of doubt. Amidst the sharing, a young woman's voice quivered through the air. I always felt like I wasn't enough because of my family's secrets, like my thoughts didn't matter. The sentence hung starkly in the air, a guttural truth that resonated uncomfortably. Lily's heart raced as this echo from the past collided with her current resolve. Hadn't she felt that encapsulating shadow her entire life? She could see the young woman's eyes glisten with unspent tears, and a magnetic urge to reach out surged through her. Your voice matters, Lily found herself responding instinctively. We all have shadows that lurk. Let us bring light to them. Each interaction began to carve a passage through her fear, revealing glimpses of the strength she had underestimated in herself. Yet, each step forward unspooled a tangle of deeper fears. Would she summon the courage to explore her own wounds alongside the raw revelations of others? Could she remain steadfast as both floundering leader and fragile artist, supporting while becoming vulnerable herself? As the workshop unfolded, a sense of shared purpose washed over her, letting in fresh air where chaos had previously tightened its hold. But even underneath the flicker of empowerment, a thorn of anxiety remained. What if facing these shared pains opened forbidden doors that could never close? The final sharing session left her breathless, a raw outpouring of confessions mingled with laughter and tears. They had glimpsed the boundaries of one another's realities, yet Lily was acutely aware of her own gaping vulnerabilities. After the silence waned, she took a deep breath. Thank you for sharing so openly today, she said, fighting the trembling in her voice. We are building something amazing together, but we must also prepare ourselves for the journey that lies ahead. As the session concluded, an overwhelming uncertainty washed over her. Could she sustain this momentum? As she tidied up the chairs around her, she felt it a weight tethering her, as if she was straddling two realities, one, a supportive guide to others, and two, a wavering figure poised on the edge of self-discovery. Her path loomed ahead like a narrow bridge, fog curling around it, blurring the edges. Would she step into the unknown and embrace it, or allow fear to paralyze her from walking forward into the revelation that was laid out before her? And amid this turmoil, a singular thought crystallized: the true journey was just beginning. Would she plunge deeper into her own shadows, risking the clarity she sought, or would she retreat into the security of her silence? The weight of her choices pressed heavily upon her as she braced for the waters that awaited. The days following the workshop felt like a tempest brewing within Lily. The conversations she had fostered rippled through her mind like echoes in a vast canyon, amplifying both her hope and her fear. As she navigated her daily life, she sensed a subtle shift, as if she were standing on the precipice of some hidden truth, one that clung to the edges of her consciousness but didn't quite emerge. Each encounter gradually nudged her toward a newfound awareness. At the local cafe, she overheard a pair of friends discussing their struggles with identity. Their candid dialogue struck a nerve, reminding her of the young woman's revelation during the workshop. Lily's mind began to dance between these real-life narratives, threads weaving into a broader fabric of human experience. She realized how profoundly intertwined their stories were with her own. Yet, the shadows that loomed closer felt more suffocating. Late nights were spent turning pages in a journal that had become her sanctuary. With each entry, she delved into abandoned memories, unearthing the roots of her self-doubt and fear. Questions lingered heavily. What stories had she silenced? What pains had she refused to confront? The weight of unacknowledged truths seeped into her writing, but a growing resolve intertwined with her uncertainty. She was ready to face what lay buried. One afternoon, while browsing through a local bookstore, a tattered memoir caught her eye. The author's harrowing journey of overcoming a troubled past resonated deeply with her. She delved into its pages, drawn into the author's world of raw honesty, illuminating the complexities of vulnerability. Understanding began to blossom in her as she recognized her own hesitations mirrored in the author's reflections. Could her storytelling, even in its rawest form, hold the same potential for healing? The day after devouring the memoir, she returned to the community center, not to lead another workshop but to listen. The space still hummed with the stories of those who had gathered before, but now it existed as a canvas for her own exploration. Lily decided she would share not only the role of guide but also a piece of her own narrative. Today, I want to share a story, my story, she announced as the others settled into their seats. The proclamation felt audacious, almost reckless, yet she pressed on. As she spoke, every word morphed from hesitant whispers to resonant truths. She revealed her struggles with feeling inadequate, the weight of family expectations, the constant battle against the echoes of her past. The room fell silent, absorbing the vulnerability she cast like a line into unknown waters. With each confession, she could feel the threads of connection weaving tighter among the attendees, their collective breath signaled unspoken understanding. Then she noticed a shift, a deepening intensity in the atmosphere. Eyes widened as her story unfolded, revealing glimmers of their own buried experiences. When she finished, a stillness filled the air, a charged silence pregnant with understanding. Rather than a wave of sympathy, there came something more profound, acceptance. One participant raised her hand hesitantly. "I thought I was the only one feeling this way. Thank you for sharing." Lily scarcely had time to absorb the magnitude of what this exchange meant when a realization dawned upon her. In claiming her own voice, she had provided a conduit for others to reclaim theirs too. Vulnerability bound them in a shared struggle, igniting sparks of resilience. As the session ended and conversations flourished around her, a new, unfamiliar weight rested on her shoulders. Responsibility mingled with empowerment. She had not only stepped into her narrative, but she had also begun to redefine what it meant to lead. Perhaps leadership was not about holding the reins but holding space, a realization that filled her with both excitement and trepidation. As she walked home, her mind raced with possibilities. With each step, she felt the ground beneath her solidifying. What other stories lay hidden, waiting for the right voice to bring them to light? Would she continue to confront the labyrinth of her own past? In that moment, beneath the canopy of fading daylight, the knot of uncertainty unfurled slightly, leaving room for hope to flourish. There was no time to waste, the journey ahead was hers to navigate, filled with untapped discoveries. Would she find the courage to explore the depths of her own history, and ultimately, could she confront the person who had shaped her discomfort the most, her mother? The stakes had never felt higher, yet the thrill of possibility sent exhilaration coursing through her veins. It was time to unlock those doors that had been barred shut for far too long. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting a warm golden hue into Lily's room, a sense of determination began to fill her. Last night's revelation stirred something profound within her. The acceptance she'd drawn from her story illuminated her path forward, but the shadows of her past continued to beckon for confrontation. It wasn't enough to just tell her story, she needed to confront the narratives woven into her childhood, particularly the complex relationship with her mother. Lily sat on the edge of her bed, the journal resting in her lap like a dear friend. The blank page before her felt like a chasm waiting to be filled. Should she write a letter to her mother? The idea struck her like lightning. The last time they met had spiraled into a heated argument, words exchanged that left scars deeper than she was willing to acknowledge. Today, that confrontation would take a different form, one grounded in reflection rather than blame, one that demanded honesty. With a fierce resolve, she began to write. Each word flowed with a raw authenticity. "I've often felt invisible in your presence," she penned, her hands shaking slightly. Would this letter fall upon dismissive eyes or understand the grittier layers of her struggle? "I'm tired of living under the weight of expectations that feel foreign to me." The release was cathartic, yet a whisper within her mind questioned if she would find the courage to send it. The fear of rejection lingered, clutching at her heart, but that fear was also where her strength lay. Her phone chimed, jolting her thoughts away from the letter. It was a group message from the workshop attendees, a reminder that many were gathering to share their narratives. They were urging one another to open the doors to their fears, just as she had. But was she ready to share the depths of her own past? It felt like standing at the edge of a diving board, peering into the depths below. Instinct told her to leap, but apprehension gripped her tight. Yet, as she stepped out of her door and felt the cool morning air against her skin, she remembered the acceptance that had blossomed during her last session. Vulnerability could be a formidable weapon, a bridge to building trust. Her instincts urged her to attend. Perhaps she could guide others in a way that echoed her own struggles. Arriving at the gathering, she found familiar faces, some ignited with eagerness, others shadowed by uncertainty. As she settled into the circle, an unshakable feeling of solidarity settled over her. She was now an equal participant in this journey of discovery, not merely a guide. A speaker took the floor, sharing a powerful narrative of loss and rebirth. Every story echoed through Lily, highlighting both the collective nature of their struggles and the individual battles each faced. When it was her turn, she hesitated momentarily, her heart racing. She recalled the core of her intention, a desire to be seen, and a need for her voice to resonate. "I've come to recognize that storytelling is a twofold journey, both a way to reveal and a way to heal," she began, feeling her fear dissipate in the warmth of the supportive gazes surrounding her. "Today, I want to share my journey, not just the moments of triumph but also the shadows I've carried." As her words unfolded, she spoke not just to them but to herself, acknowledging the hurt she had hidden for far too long. "My relationship with my mother has been a complex tapestry of love and pain. I've lived in the shadow of her expectations, yet I long to find my own identity." The tightness in her throat expanded, she was finally naming the fear she had felt for years. But then the moment struck, an uncertainty tethered itself to the end of her story. Would this openness spark understanding, or would it fracture her relationships further? Silence hung heavily, enveloping her like a shroud. Suddenly, a woman across from her spoke with a tremor in her voice. "I've felt the same way about my mother." Lily instinctively recognized the significance of that moment. The connection was immediate. Their shared experience became a thread that wove tightly among the others. As the conversation flowed, stories of reconciliation and longing echoed in harmony, creating a symphony of understanding. Yet, deep down, a nagging question lingered. Would she dare confront her mother face to face, or would her letter remain a silent testament to her fears? The taste of unresolved conflict still lingered in her mind. Lily felt the horizon widen ahead of her, each choice illuminating the path with potential, yet the most daunting step awaited. As the gathering continued, she considered the next meeting, the raw, unavoidable confrontation with her mother looming just around the corner. Would she find the courage to deliver her words and face the woman who had so profoundly shaped her struggles? The question echoed in her mind, blending into the symphony of shared stories surrounding her now. The soft hum of voices melded into a comforting backdrop, yet within Lily, a storm brewed. The warmth of connection felt almost foreign, a sensation she was still learning to embrace. Each story shared resonated within her, forces tugging at her to make that next move. But what would that move entail? As the gathering wound down, she caught snippets of laughter and shared moments between attendees, their walls dissolving in the face of common experiences. It was a beautiful display of vulnerability, yet it magnified her own silence. She was yet to confront her mother, enough to transcend from the shadows of her past into the light of her present. Determined to bridge that gap, she decided to reclaim her narrative through not only storytelling but through bold confrontations. The tension in her gut flared as she stood to leave, sending electric pulses through her limbs. The conversation she had with herself would not settle like stones at the bottom of a river, it demanded action. Walking back home, Lily's mind spun in circles. What would she say? How had their dynamic reshaped her view of herself, and would her mother listen when presented with the raw truth? It was a fairy tale she wished for but could not assure. The idea of penning a letter felt insurmountable now. She wanted to speak openly, to face her mother as the woman she had become, not the little girl still seeking approval. Pacing in her kitchen, her phone rang, an unexpected message from her mother. Instinctively, she hesitated, nerves clawing for attention before she mustered the courage to read it. "Can we talk? I've been thinking about our last argument." The words pulsed across the screen, sending ripples of panic alongside a spark of hope. Could this be the opportunity she needed? She tossed the phone onto the counter, breathing deeply as the air thickened with expectation. Yet uncertainty pricked at her thoughts. What if her mother was unprepared for the depths of her emotions? Would a conversation spark the understanding she was after? Yet, hadn't the workshop illuminated her path toward honesty? Finding a middle ground between caution and determination, she crafted a reply. "I'd like to. I need to talk to you about some things I haven't shared before." The moment she hit send, dread and excitement intertwined like old friends. Her heart raced while dread settled in her stomach. Questions spiraled into indecision. What revelations lay ahead? Confronting her mother felt imperative, like stepping into the wilderness without a compass. It was daunting yet liberating. The following day slipped into the evening, and Lily prepared for their meeting. She meticulously pieced together her thoughts, weaving honesty into her intentions. She hoped to share more than just grievances. She wished to express her desire for understanding, for acceptance of her truth. When she finally stood outside her mother's home, a torrent of memories surged through her, a flood of laughter tinged with reprimands, moments of joy tainted by misunderstandings, all tangled within the complexity of love. Gathering her courage, she knocked. As the door opened, her mother's familiar face morphed into an expression of uncertainty, mirroring what lay inside Lily. Their gazes locked, a silent acknowledgement circling between them. "Can we talk?" she rasped, the words trembling as they broke the palpable silence. The moment stretched, suspended in the air before her mother nodded, inviting Lily into a space that was both known and fearful, the threshold of confrontation. Would she find the understanding she sought, or would the shadows of their past loom larger than the light of their present? With each step taken, Lily felt the walls she had erected for so long start to crumble. But relief was layered with tension. The real battle was yet to begin. As they settled across from each other, Lily knew that the path to healing hinged on this pivotal moment, and the weight of their impending truth draped heavily around them. What fragile threads would be uncovered, and could they weave a new tapestry of connection from the remnants of what had been? The long-sought conversation awaited them, the stakes poised impossibly high. Lily sat nervously across from her mother, the tension crackling like electricity in the air. The walls that had once felt so sturdy around her heart now seemed to pulse with vulnerability, echoing the silent plea for understanding. This was the moment she had been aching for, yet dread coiled around her instincts. Would her honesty be met with compassion, or would it only create deeper divides? "Lily," her mother began, her voice wavering, barely above a whisper. "I know we left things unresolved the last time we spoke." The sincerity in her tone offered a fragile bridge, an opportunity Lily had long wished for. Heart racing, she felt the weight of unshared truths pressing on her chest, all the quiet sorrows begging to be heard. "I've lived under the impression that I need to be what you expect, but it's been suffocating," Lily started, discovering the strength that surged through her words. "I want to reclaim my own identity. I need you to understand that my journey is just as valid as your expectations." Each statement was met with a flicker of apprehension in her mother's eyes, a clear acknowledgement of the words that were long overdue. Her mother leaned back slightly, processing the sentiments unveiled. I never meant to impose my vision for your life, Lily. I've been so caught up in my own fears trying to protect you. The admission hung between them, heavy yet illuminating. It sparked a flicker of remorse that seeped into their conversation, masking the sharpness of their previous conflicts with tenderness. Lily pressed on, fueled by the realization that this was a critical turning point. We've both carried burdens, and it's time to shed them. My heart is full of art and stories, waiting for a voice. I want you to see me not just as your daughter, but as an artist, as someone on her own path. The ripple of courage coursing through her veins felt invigorating, unlocking a part of her that she had kept hidden for far too long. Her mother's expression softened, confusion giving way to understanding. I'm sorry if I didn't see you for who you are. I was blinded by my own shadows. There was a newfound honesty in her eyes, as if she had finally stepped out from behind her own walls. In that moment, the bridge between them became palpable, a connection forged through recognition of their shared humanity, their fears laid bare. Echoes of both pain and possibility echoed around them, furnished by the weight of their honesty. Feeling the years of silence start to crack, Lily continued, art is my lifeline. I'm no longer willing to let past misunderstandings dictate my future. Sharing my family's story through my art feels like unearthing buried relics of ourselves. It's cathartic. She could see the wheels turning in her mother's mind, the fate of their relationship hanging delicately in the balance. What if we collaborated? Her mother's suggestion surprised them both. What if you help me understand your art, what it means to you? Lily's heart swelled with possibility. We could create something that tells both our stories, the pain, the beauty, the journey. We could showcase them together. The thought ignited a light within her, a testimony to the growth they could achieve as a family. Their conversation unfolded like a canvas being painted, each stroke revealing colors long hidden beneath layers of misunderstanding. The sun dipped down, casting warm light through the window, illuminating the pathway that stretched before them, a new beginning. As they discussed ideas for the art project, the connection deepened, intertwining their individual narratives into something that breathed new life, something built from shared struggle and love. This was not merely an art project, it symbolized the reclamation of their relationship, allowing them to embrace each other's truths. When their conversation finally drew to an emotional close, Lily experienced a profound sense of release. For the first time, she felt seen not just as her mother's daughter but as her own person, an artist ready to shine with authenticity. They embraced, a warm cocoon of acceptance wrapping around them. Lily stepped back into her own light, carrying with her an undeniable shift. The confrontation with her mother had become a reclamation of self, an affirmation of her artistic journey, woven together with the story of family. She realized that she could confront her past without losing herself in its shadows. As she returned home, her heart danced with newfound confidence, sensing that her artworks would no longer merely reflect the struggles of her lineage but also embody the resilience and redemption discovered in their reconciliation. She had not just faced her fears, she had conquered them. Now, to take the next step into the world, she would lead the community in a project that represented their untold stories, inviting others to embrace their truths alongside hers. The legacy of her art would echo far beyond her own experience, it would cultivate connections, enlightening the paths of many. The world awaited her, and she stood ready not just as an artist reborn, but as a voice that had finally emerged from the shadows. The truth she yearned to explore would guide her as she ventured forth, not alone, but fortified by the bonds of family, acceptance, and the transformative power of storytelling, a journey dedicated to reclaiming the richness of their legacy for all to witness. Now is your time to embrace the power of storytelling. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it makes a difference. Comment below your reactions and theories about this conclusion. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. Don't wait even one more second to show your support, only true fans understand the importance of uplifting personal overcoming stories.